Coming on here. 2 minutes too.
I want to welcome everybody to our special council meeting today on Monday, April 17th. Today's special council meeting is with representatives from Hydro One, so I want to thank them for coming back. We have all of our council members here tonight. Councillor Allard is virtual, so welcome, Councillor Allard. Any declarations? Oh, sorry. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of the First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. Any declarations of conflicts of interest from members of council? Seeing none, looking for a mover for the adoption of the published agenda for April 17th for our special council meeting. Councillor Hammond, Councillor Mady, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried unanimously. And now we will move to our public presentations. Before we do, we will have just a little introduction from CAO Suite.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So tonight, council, we have Hydro One representatives here with us. And a little history is back in, I believe, July or August last year, council asked Hydro One to attend as a virtual meeting. At that time, we had power outages, flickering in our Hydro One service area. So they did attend, provided some information, and council at that time asked them to come back, I believe it was October. However, with the election, but we also found out, as we encourage if there's a power outage or flicker, for residents to contact Hydro One directly, right? So they can record it and track it. Since that wasn't happening, Hydro One created a letter, sent it out to all the residents in the area, gave them the information how to contact. Town website, we've added that information. So we felt it was prudent to have them come back later when they may have more metrics can update you. So hence they're here in April with more of that data and information for you. So at this moment, then I'll turn it over to, I'm not sure who will take the lead, but Hydro One.
Your worship and members of council. My name is Malika Kara and I'm a community relations manager at Hydro One. Before we begin our presentation, I want to start by thanking you for sharing your appreciation with our CEO, David Lebeter, regarding our recent crews effort to restore power to customers during the February storm. Your kind words were not only heard at the executive level, but also reached the field. During major storm events, our crews are ready to put their family time on hold, nights and weekends to support with restoration efforts so that power can be back on for our customers as quickly and safely as possible. I also want to thank you for inviting us here today to provide an update on the immediate steps we've taken since our last council presentation to improve reliability for our Colchester and Harrow customers. We understand power interruptions, even brief flickering of lights, can be frustrating for our customers. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues, Lei Zhu, Manager of Distribution Investment Planning, and Saad Feroz, Senior Planner, who will lead today's discussion and expand on Hydro One's continued focus and investment. Please feel free to pause us at any time if you have questions throughout the presentation. I will now highlight the key discussion items before I pass it over to Lei to expand. Next slide, please. We'll begin with what we've heard from you and our customers over the past several months and beyond, and how working together has supported the findings. We will provide an overview of how the electricity system is designed in Essex and how Harrow and Colchester customers are served. We will provide an overview of focused investments we continue to make in the area to improve reliability. We will present historical outage data and describe what the numbers tell us. We will touch on our continued commitment to work with the municipality to support its growth and development initiatives to ensure the electricity network is available where and when it is needed. And of course, we're happy to take questions throughout. I will now turn it over to Lay.
Good afternoon, everyone. First off, thanks for having us back. Hydro One is continuing to investigate the issues and invest in the system to resolve the flicker and momentary outage issues being reported by our customers in Harrow and in Colchester. We acknowledge the continued issues being experienced by the customers and appreciate your reporting efforts. This data is helping us drive towards solutions. We understand it's frustrating, it's inconvenient, among other feelings, and that the causes that this has caused, and we'll continue to invest in our system to address this issue. We are hoping to share some updates throughout our presentation. Next slide, please. Sorry. Just this one. This one's good. So on this map, you see the town of Essex cover a vast area, and there are several different points of distribution supply. For today's discussion, we're focused on the assets serving Harrow and Colchester. Our data and your continued reporting indicates that the outages are mostly as a result of momentary events affecting the Kingsville M1, which services the customers in Harrow and Colchester. Colchester is located downstream of Harrow, hence outages in Harrow will impact Colchester as well. So regarding the momentary outages, so it is industry practice for rural distribution systems to be designed and operated to allow short momentary interruptions in order to minimize longer interruptions. The reasons behind this are due to the large surface territory that we have to cover. It takes us a relatively longer to respond with our crews to reach these outages. And most of the outages in nature are momentary. These could be caused by weather, animal contact, vegetation. And after a momentary brief interruption, the faults do not persist, and thus power can remain on the system. Next slide, please. As part of our continued efforts to work together to resolve this issue, our customers in the area have really stepped up in assisting. In February, Hydro One contacted over 5,300 customers to encourage additional outage reporting. The information that we have received from the customers, such as time, location, duration, and other details of the outage, have helped us, along with our system data, to better pinpoint and understand the issues and direct where investments are needed in the system. Next slide, please. So on this slide, we're covering sort of the recent activities we have taken as part of our process to try to resolve the issues. So most recently in January 2023, a new protected device, specifically it's called a recloser, was installed in Colchester. This is on County Road 50 near the bend in the road just before Wright Road. The location of this device was selected based on the feedback we've had from the customer reporting, as well as the outage data that we see on our system. Also in January 2023, we've installed a new communicating fault indicator. And what this device does is it records events on the system and reports it back via the cellular network to the Hydro One Operations Center. And this new device is installed on Erie Street South near Kale Crescent, if I'm not mistaken. In addition to those two items, some of the defects, equipment defects that were identified during infrared patrols, we've been working on the repairs, and first batch of them were completed as of November 2022. We have completed additional vegetation patrols, as well as clearing last summer, and continue to patrol the feeders as outages and flicker events occur. So in addition to those investments I've mentioned, we do have regular maintenance schedules in which we assess the condition of our assets and make repairs or replacements as required. I do want to take a moment to, I think, address one of the action items that came out of the August meeting, where I believe one of the councillors was asking for more details about where some of these other communicating fault indicators were installed as part of the process to troubleshoot. So in addition to the one I've mentioned there on Erie Street South near Kale Crescent, there are 2 more devices that were part of the efforts to troubleshoot and collect more data in the system, and they were installed, I believe, in 2021, if not 2022. The first one is off of Ridge Road, off of County Road 20 on Ridge Road, so that we can better track outages in that area. There's another device on the Kane Side Road off of County Road 20, and this is just to the west end of Kingsville there. In addition to these 2, as well as the one we recently installed, there are numerous other fault indicators. These are devices that do not report back, but they provide a visual indication to our crews that are installed throughout the system, which helps guide our distribution crews as they go out there to try to find the location of these faults and subsequently resolve the issues. Next slide, please. So going forward, we will continue to investigate and invest in our system in Harrow and in Colchester. We'll continue to analyze data from the customer reports, as well as our internal outage data to pinpoint the causes and to better direct our investments. We'll continue to drive the lines and then troubleshoot the cause of outages as they occur, address vegetation issues prior to our scheduled cycles on an as-needed basis. Both the customers and Hydro One have thrown a lot of efforts at this issue and continue to do so. This issue has proven to be quite difficult for us to resolve, but Hydro One will continue to work on it and perhaps consider other approaches moving forward. Next slide, please. So over the next few slides, we're going to dive a bit more into some of the outage details in this area. On this slide, you'll see there's a pie chart. I think the numbers are quite small there. This pie chart is meant to represent a breakdown of the different causes of sustained outages experienced by customers on the Kingsville M1. And these are broken down based on duration of these outages. The main causes, as you can see on the chart, are equipment failure in blue there, followed by tree contacts in purple. These 2 different causes are generally Hydro One's top issues throughout the province. And based on the data that we see for the Kingsville M1, it is consistent with our general system averages. So specifically to what we're doing to address these 2 causes, for the first cause, equipment failure, as mentioned previously, the first batch of defects on the Kingsville M1 were repaired by November 2022. The outstanding repairs we're on track to finish them in summer 2023. With regards to tree contact, these events are highly susceptible to storm events, high winds. What we're doing there is we're continuing to patrol these lines to identify where vegetation is growing to our lines, and dispatch our forestry crews to trim those lines as those potential issues arise. Next slide, please. This slide covers the historical sustained outage data over the last several years. There's a fair bit of numbers here, so please bear with me. These numbers are reported values to our regulator, the Ontario Energy Board, and our industry metrics to track reliability performance. So drawing your attention to the first table. So this first table shows the average number of hours a customer on the Kingsville M1 experience on a yearly basis from 2019 till present day 2023, as of, I think, end of February, apologies. So this first table excludes outages due to major storm events. So these are in particular the February storm event on February 22nd, as well as issues on our transmission system that causes a loss of supply to the distribution system. This data does fluctuate year over year. And as you can see, at 8.1 hours in 2023, 2023 is trending to be a very poor reliability year. The second table includes data from the first table and adds to it the major storm events as well as loss of supply causes. So this table, the second table, is intended to capture the end customer's experience on the feeder. So as of February 2023, the major storm events in February has really added to that 8.1 number. You see it in the first table here, and has caused a large number of outage hours for the customers on these feeders. Towards the bottom of the slide, there are a couple more definitions, but I'll leave them for future. Next slide, please. So turning our attention to momentary outages. So this first table captures the momentary outages we have recorded at the feeder source, which is in Kingsville, specifically Kingsville Transmission Station. At the feeder source since August 2022, we see 7 momentary operations, of which 5 occurred during major storm events. The FM in the table is meant to represent force majeure, which is the major storm events we've discussed and defined on the previous slide. So building on this number, customers on the M1 will see more momentary interruptions as there are additional protected devices before Herald and before Colchester. From our records, at least 7 additional momentary interruptions would have occurred. We understand that customers are reporting additional momentary interruptions beyond the 14 as described above. And along with your reporting, we continue to drive towards a solution to this issue. I believe Mayor Bondy reached out to Hydro One specifically for issues that were experienced on, I think, April 10th and the 11th, as well as the April 14th. So we did some digging on our end. On April 10th, we see a momentary event at around 8:45 in the morning. Unfortunately, at this point, the cause is unknown. However, we did narrow down the issue to be something on Ridge Road area. And this is based off the CFCI with the fault indicator that we have installed, which indicated to us that there is an event that originated from that location. On April 11th at around 4 p.m., there was a motor vehicle accident in Colchester South that resulted in outages. On April 14th, we see 2 events of note on the system. One at 8:30 in the morning approximately. This was an outage just south of Herald. It resulted in one of our protected devices operating as intended, and the device did lock out. Our field crews had to be dispatched to patrol all the downstream lines. They were unable to find any causes and, closed in that device, and the power remained energized. So prior to that device locking out, there would have been several momentary interruptions as the device tried to clear the fall on its own before remaining open. Approximately 2 hours after, around 10:30 in the morning, one of the new protected devices we installed in Colchester, this is the one on County Road 50 near that big bend before Wright Road. That device operated for a fault that originated on Booster Drive, I believe. It was due to a blown arrestor that we had. Once again, it appears to us that the new investments we're making in this case did operate as intended, and we're able to minimize the number of customers impacted by this event. Next slide, please. Shifting gears quickly to touch on supporting growth and working with the town of Essex. Hydro One and the town continues to leverage our open lines of communication to work together. This includes sharing development details and integrating the town of Essex electricity needs into the regional planning activities. And with that, I'll turn it back to Mika.
In the event of an outage, even momentary, we're strongly encouraging customers to contact Hydro One directly to report it. They can either call us or report online. Sorry, next slide, please. Thank you. So the contact details are up here for where to contact us to report said outages. This information is extremely valuable to us. It's used to track the number of outages, and it helps us pinpoint the location of outages. Next slide, please. That being said, I want to thank you again for having us. We appreciate all feedback that's been provided to date, and we are open to any questions you have at this time. I want to reiterate that Hydro One values the efforts of our customers who continue to call us and directly report any outages. We also appreciate the ongoing focus of this council to work with us. And should you have any follow-up questions, please know that we're always available. Thank you.
I want to thank you again for coming to Essex Council, and thank you for the reminder during the ice storm. That was such a storm, and we had so many crews down in our area working to restore our region. So thanks again for that. Any questions from council to our Hydro One representatives? Councillor McGuire, please.
Through the chair. My question, I guess, is for Mr. Zhu. You install protection devices. You've installed several, but we're still seeing outages. We understand that it's less than what we would have gotten. So let's say we were having 50 outages. Now we're getting 10 outages, only affecting 10 consumers, residents. What do we say to those 10 residents who are still losing power as council people when they come to us and say, my power is still going out? And whatever Hydro One is doing, adding these protection devices is not working for me. And now I need to replace my fridge for the 8th time in the last 5 years.
Thank you for the question. We do emphasize and realize how difficult the situation is for the customers that are affected. In this case, perhaps a reduced amount than it was before. And that being said, we do ask for your continued patience and support. The reporting that has been ongoing by some of these customers for, I believe, years now, and an increased effort from those customers as well as new customers is really helping us drive towards a solution. I hope you can see that the investments that we're making, a lot of effort is being put, and unfortunately, this is not a simple problem for us to resolve. Speaking to our line crews, we all wish there was a low-hanging fruit that we're just missing that we could easily turn to and resolve the issue. But in the absence of that, there's the process that we continue to go through. And, we really ask for the understanding and the patience as we continue to work on this together, and hopefully in the short term have, a better solution that will alleviate the concerns from these 10 customers.
That definitely helps when we're trying to speak to our residents and reassure them. So just to reiterate that we want them to keep reporting, and hopefully we will see solutions. We are seeing better. So kudos to that. I don't want to downplay that. My other question is, the town is looking to grow both residentially and in industry. What can we say to our residents when they say, well, why would we grow? You can't sustain the power of what we currently have. How are you going to help the town, the municipality grow if we're continuing to have these outages?
Thanks again for that question. So I do want to acknowledge that the reliability issue in this case, even in the absence of customer complaint, is an issue for Hydro One. As discussed, those reliability metrics are reported to our regulators and is a continued point of focus for us as a company to provide better reliability to our customers. In this case, specifically for trying to attract additional growth and investments, a lot of these companies are very focused on having a reliable source of supply, and we want to make sure that we are able to provide that without compromising the existing reliability to our customers, and specifically in this case, improving those reliability for those customers. I do want to acknowledge that the issues with regards to capacity is loosely related, but not directly related to the reliability issues. So these feeders have capacity for more load, and adding that capacity should not directly result in decrease of reliability. But that being said, a troublesome reliability for the customers, residential perhaps mostly in this case, is also a similar issue that industrial or commercial customers will also deeply care and be concerned about, as well as we try to attract additional investments in the area.
Chair. I'm happy to hear about the extra CFCIs being added. That's great. And that they appear to be working. That's wonderful. There is a Facebook group that's been kind of posting monitoring power outages, and it really does look like where you've installed this is where most of the complaints were coming from. And now looking at that data, and this is very informal, of course, but that most of the outages now are being with outages that are happening in Harrow. So it looks like it is something that's gone further up the stream now. But that ice storm did get a lot of people looking up and noticing quite a bit of spots where there might be the tree contact that you were talking about, and actually showed as one of your largest. For the people that notice that there is some tree contact or possible tree contact, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you? And I guess whose responsibility is it to clear that tree contact, first of all? And then what's the best way for them to get a hold of people to get that done?
Thank you for the question. I think perhaps it's best to leverage the existing process where, we do call in, to the information that Malika has provided. And I think in this case, it would be great if we can provide, a bit more specific details around, hey, there's a tree near this location that we think might be causing some of these issues. And we do have forestry crews that will go out there, inspect the job. So they would tech it, and then they would kind of design how this is to be done. And then at a later date, the forestry will come back and complete the actual work. So I think we did do sort of what's called a hazard patrol. So, as part of investigating a reliability issue, we sent out our forestry crews just to this area that we know, in this case, Colchester, that we've been experiencing some tree contact issues. They patrolled the lines specifically from a forestry perspective. And I believe they identified 3 or 4 spots last summer that were of note. And we were able to get our forestry crews to specifically trim those 3 or 4 spots. And, we believe that removes more risk from our system. And, as more information like that become available, we hope to continue doing that to remove more areas of concern.
Any questions myself?
Thanks to you, Mayor Bondi. Just to add to Councillor Mady's comments, for council and the residents of the town, we work with Hydro One. We do on our own town website have a page called Utility Providers. So for example, Hydro One, it has a map of their service area. It has a link if you had to put it in a claim, has a phone number and their website, and a link to also report a problem. So if they don't know where to go, it's also on the town website to get that information.
Okay, thank you. I have a question myself, and then I'll go to Councillor Guerin. What is your current vegetation management frequency, and are you on schedule? Like, I Googled it before and I saw a 7-year cycle, but where are you in terms of where you are in Essex, please?
Thank you for the question. So where we are in Essex, the feeders that supply Harold and Colchester, along with some of the adjacent feeders, were last cleared in 2021. They are scheduled based on our renewed optimal cycle clearing protocol to be cleared every 3 years. So they are tentatively scheduled for 2024 as the next cycle to be cleared. But in addition to that, as we have discussed, as issues arise, we can and will continue to dispatch our forestry crews to do ad hoc inspections and trim anything that we see that could be potentially causing outages.
Have Councillor Guerin, and then I do have another one after.
2 questions. So on the tree trimming, when you say 3-year cycle, are you saying that 3 years you trim what you can or what needs to be trimmed, and then 3 years later you go back at it again? Or there's no way you're getting to all of them trees every 3 years?
I appreciate the question. So I may not be the best person to speak on this, and I can take it back and maybe provide you some more details. Based on my understanding, these are scheduled for an entire end-to-end clearing of the line every 3 years. So I believe depending on the species and how close they are currently into the line, there is a set standard on how much they need to be trimmed back, such that when they return in 3 years' time, there's still sufficient clearance that shouldn't cause any issues. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, I can take it back and get you more details.
It's good through you, Mayor Bondy. So that leads me to, I guess, the question then is, so causes of sustained outages, the two main ones, which 65% of your pie is equipment failure or tree contact. So if you're a user on your grid, you would think that it's as simple as equipment failure. Could it mean lack of investment in new equipment? Probably not. And is it as simple as just trimming trees? Do you take percentages of when you go out and you find that it's equipment failure? Do you realize at that point in time, is it because of old equipment or is it because of failure of new equipment? And do you know those percentages? Because I think where the users come from when they don't have power is, well, trim the trees already or invest in new equipment. If it's old equipment, why are we not replacing it? I don't think it's as simple as that. I just wondered if you could speak to it.
Thanks for the question. Definitely can get into a lot more detail, but at a high level, to address those equipment failures, we do our lines guys do patrol the feeders to take a look at every component. This is with their eyes to try to identify anything wrong that can trigger corrective actions. We either repair or in a lot of cases replace the defective equipment. In addition to that, we leverage thermal imaging cameras. These cameras help us identify which pieces of the system is running hotter than normal. In the context of electricity, it generally means that something is going wrong or something abnormal is occurring in this context, and those inspections results in us correcting those defects. So if you recall, we mentioned we completed first batch by November 2022. So those are our direct efforts in trying to address equipment related issues. So a lot of times these are old insulators that are tracking, that are running hot, or failed lightning arresters and other devices as we see in our system.
So can we believe then that whatever's occurring in Essex is average occurring everywhere else too? In terms of how many monetaries we're getting or how many full outages we're getting. Let's talk about the monetaries, because those seem to be the one that bothers everyone, right? You lose it for a second, it comes back on, you lose it for a second, it comes back on. And we seem to think by the reports we're getting, the calls we're getting, the emails we're getting, is that this is happening a lot. It may not happen in Essex Center, but it's affecting someone in Harrow maybe, or happening in Colchester, but not in Essex. So are we having more monetaries in our municipality than other municipalities that are running on Hydro One?
Thanks for the question. So with regards to how many momentaries are occurring and how this compares, our data for the momentaries, as we discuss on this feeder, we have kind of roughly 14 from our records. And I think this is part of the having customers call in and report to us. There is an acknowledged discrepancy between how many reports based on the customer's call in and what we see in our system. And this is one of the I wouldn't say the mysteries, but one of the difficulties that we're trying to resolve. Momentary operation in our system is intended. This is the philosophy across all of our service territory, given generally how rural it is. And in most times it's a good scenario. For example, if there's momentary outages and after a couple seconds, the light remains back on, to us, that's an indication that the system work as intended. There's no sustained outages. There's no one's out for longer that requires a crew to go out there and fix the issue or close a switch. And, we're able to continue our lives best we can with that momentary interruption. So it is something we're continuing to look into to try to understand that discrepancy. And, we do want to try to close that gap to make sure we're able to have a better answer. We'll be able to better speak to those discrepancies between what the customer is seeing and what we are recording on our end.
Relating to momentary outages, has Hydro One ever looked at the length of the feeders to see how many customers are served on a single feeder? And if the customers on a feeder can you look at like splitting that line or bringing in a secondary feeder to like, it's just all questions, right? And so, I know the momentaries are designed to not have people's power go out, but what's happened is the momentaries are actually wreaking havoc on a lot of people's appliances. And I wear a lot of that, and I would encourage you to check out the Facebook group. I can send it to you. It's Power Outage Watch. And it's actually really helpful because we post in there when they happen. And there seems to be almost patterns, like, every morning at 8:30. And so it's accumulation of the flickers that are happening all the time, where I think it is doing damage to people's appliances. I appreciate the fact that you're here. It's really good. And I know it's hard being in the hot seat. And we're building a really good relationship, which I appreciate too. I'm wondering if this is something, and I know all have bosses you have to talk to, but I really think that this would be helpful, having you back here every 6 months, just, 1 hour every 6 months, so that we can touch base on the data that we're getting from members of the public. Because I do tell the members of the public to call Hydro One, and I'm hoping that they are. Before the last meeting, I told them that, you weren't getting a lot of calls, so I hope that you're getting more. But, I think that building this relationship is good, and looking at other out of the box solutions, like how long the length of feeders. I heard the M1 is like from Kingsville to Amherst. So maybe we have to, like, I don't know, I don't speak hydro, chop that up, right? So is there anything you could do on that end for, like, say, that long feeder?
Thanks, Mayor Bondi. Appreciate the question. So with regards to the length of the feeder, we are considering, both us and I think and the customers as well as everyone here has definitely spent a lot of time and effort on this. And it does appear that a lot of the low hanging fruits, we've explored them all, and, we're still perhaps marginally better, but not at the state that, either parties would be happy with. So these out of the box ideas, such as what you mentioned about, chopping of the feeders or some version of that, we are exploring, and it is taking us a bit longer. And without getting into more details, the way the system is set up, it's not conducive to easily providing alternative supply without, significant investments, right? So we're hoping that we're able to find the cause of the problem and perhaps not have to come back in 6 months by giving you a better solution than reporting on the progress.
On another note, our ELK, our local distributing company that Essex is sole shareholder of, we've made some pretty progressive moves lately in terms of what we see and what we want to have as improvements. I'm the new chair. The deputy mayor is the vice chair, and we have a board member in the audience. So, and Integris is helping us as a contract management company. So we also want to hear if there's anything on our end that we can do too to help. Maybe we can set up a meeting and start talking about some of these issues. Further comments from Councillor Mady?
Just wanted to know if we could have a copy of the slides, or if at the very least, I really want to read more about the structure you put in Colchester. I think. Thanks. Is it?
Questions or comments from council? If we do have a little bit of time, if there is anybody in the audience, I can ask a motion from council if anybody's dying to speak out there. No? Okay. I look forward to building our relationship, and thank you for coming and providing us information. I'm wondering if you can, like, when people have knowledge about why the momentaries happen, it makes it a little bit more easier to understand. And I know that when you have like the longer outages, people get the reason why. I'm just wondering if there's a way to communicate the reasons for some of the momentary outages, like hearing that there's a car accident. Okay, like that makes sense. You would expect a momentary outage then. Hearing that that there's a fault blown, like, is there any way you can start to get out some of that information? Because if we don't have information, we just think it's a weak system.
That's definitely an item I have to take back. I do understand our reporting. Many other groups are involved, and reporting on momentaries is not something that's readily available. But I think through the constant communication that we have with yourself, and maybe through other means, we are able to perhaps share a bit more details about what's going on, and to assure you guys that as these issues come up and as you guys provide the feedback, we are taking it seriously. We are looking into it and hopefully providing an answer on some progress, even if in some cases, as we discussed, we're not sure the cause, but at least we have it narrowed down to an area.
I'm going to keep encouraging residents to report to Hydro One, but I think I will start, as I have been doing, continuing to email. And then, you know, when we meet again, we can go through some of them again. So at least we're gathering that information. Anything else from members of council? If not, looking for a motion that the presentation from Hydro One Networks Incorporated regarding current hydro service in the town of Essex be received. Councillor McGuire Blaze, Councillor Mady, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Guerin and Councillor Hammond, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor. We'll see you at 6 o'clock, everybody.